This morning, there are growing concerns over a banking crisis after the fall of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank.
And it's not just here in the U.S. Depositors overseas are also worried about the security of their money after more banking troubles in Europe. The Swiss bank Credit Suisse announced yesterday it will borrow nearly $54 billion from the Swiss central bank to shore up liquidity, and it will seek to repurchase debt. The troubled bank is hoping those moves boost investor confidence. Still, the bank shares plummeted by as much as 30% yesterday after the news. U.S. markets followed suit. The Dow dropped 280 points, and the S&P 500 also closed lower.
All of this as Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen appears before the Senate Finance Committee this morning to discuss the president's fiscal year 2024 budget. Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver joins us now with analysis on the latest banking news. And we also have Washington's reaction with NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitali. Good morning to both of you on what is a very chaotic, confusing day. Caleb, let's start with you. Tell us what is going on with Credit Suisse, and is there ties to what we saw happen with Silicon Valley Bank? What's your read on things?
All banks are under scrutiny right now, but Credit Suisse has its own issues. It delayed releasing its annual report because it found material issues, inaccuracies probably in 2021 and 2022. That set off some fire alarms. Shares started plunging earlier this week. Its biggest investor, the Saudi National Bank, could not invest more in the bank. It needed some capital. It couldn't because of regulatory restrictions, and there was concern. Shares plunged 30% yesterday. They've rebounded. Why? Because Credit Suisse is taking that $54 billion loan from the Saudi National Bank, the Swiss National Bank, I should say, and that's going to stabilize it. So shares are back, and that contributed to a market recovery yesterday because, as you said, Dow was down 725 points. At the close, it was only down about 280 points. So there was a recovery there because of this, but this is one headline after the other that says there is trouble in the banking sector. Now it's spread overseas.
All right, Ali, so this is sparking concerns about the banking system. How's Congress reacting to all this?
Look, it depends on which party you're talking to, because for Democrats, the answer is clear here, especially after what we saw with SVB last week. Democrats, for the most part, are saying this is a sign that we need to do more regulating of the banking system, especially these mid-sized banks that saw some of the regulations that govern them rolled back during the Trump administration. On the Republican side, though, there's a little bit more of a wait-and-see vibe. Listen to the difference between Senator Warren and Senator John Thune, for example. Watch.
We need to learn from what has just happened with these banks and go forward by tightening the regulations. It's just that simple.
If there are ideas out there that people have, at some point we'd be willing to entertain those, but I think it'd be premature to start talking about solutions before we fully define the problem.
Now, look, Democrats still have the majority in the Senate. They are clearly going to push forward on some legislative front, but there's even some dissension among Democrats on what the best way forward is on this. I think the thing that we can definitely bank on, if I may pun for a moment at this early hour of the morning, is that we're going to be seeing some hearings on Capitol Hill. I know from talking to the head of the Senate Banking Committee, for example, Sherrod Brown, he's very interested in starting to do hearings, whether that's with regulators first or with banking CEOs. That's the thing they're trying to figure out in the short term.
So, Caleb, you said that stocks rebounded yesterday by the time the Dow was closing. Do you expect that to hold today?
Well, stocks are sort of mixed in the open here because we're still waiting for more headlines. We like our banks to be boring. It's been anything but boring in the banking sector lately because of these rising rates. There is a big interest rate decision coming from the European Central Bank later today. That could set the markets one way or the other, because if the ECB continues to raise rates, and then we have our own Fed meeting next week, and the Fed continues to raise rates, rising rates has been part of the problem here with these banks' balance sheets. So that's one pivotal thing to watch today.
So, Ali, today we're going to see the Treasury Secretary Yellen expected to testify before the Senate Finance Committee. What can we expect from that?
Yeah, Yellen is not going up there to testify about all the things that we've been talking about. She's going to testify about President Biden's budget. Nevertheless, nothing happens in a vacuum on Capitol Hill. And in our conversations with senators yesterday, many of them plan to ask her about this current financial situation, the things that we're currently seeing in the stock market, the volatility seemingly of this banking system right now, and potentially what regulations or not, as we just showed the partisan divide there, the administration might think could help as they they seek to shore up this system and just make sure that the banking system stays consistent at this point. But Yellen sure to face a whole range of questions from budget to banking today as she appears before these senators.
All right, Caleb Silver, Ali Vitali, thanks for kicking us off this hour.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.